Hi, everybody. Merry Christmas. I am over here because the link that I set up didn't work. It wouldn't go live. So I apologize for that snafu, and hopefully you find me here. Um, Merry Christmas. So the reason why I'm here on this particular Sunday is because a few weeks ago I got kind of a clear download that said that I should start doing regular Sunday appearances here on YouTube. And and I didn't really look at the calendar. And when I finally did, I realized that the first Sunday that I picked was actually Christmas. And then the next one is New Year's Day. And so here I am on Christmas. And I hope wherever you are, you're warm and cozy. I happen to be in Jamaica at the moment, so we might hear roosters or dogs, or a neighbor might show up. That's just kind of what happens here. Um, but I wanted to take the time to be with you live on this day, because every Sunday I'm going to have a different topic that we're going to talk about, and I'll do a tuning as well. So it's a chat and a community gathering and an opportunity for us to kind of gather in the magical space of tunings together. And if you've got forks and you want to join in, you can. And we may end up, doing group tunings together if you've got tuning forks down the road. I like the power of groups and what can be accomplished when many come together. So that's the spirit of this, is really community and the opportunity to hang out for a little bit with like-minded folks in in the ethers, in the virtual world, and connect. And my topic for today is kind of an interesting topic. And it's the word God, the word God, and what that means. And it's kind of a tricky subject, right? It's definitely a place where we have charge around that word. Some of us do. Certainly, I think different people have different interpretations of the word, right? So I thought it would be really useful for me to share what my definition is when I use the word God. And I just want to give a little kind of backstory or context for this so you understand where I'm coming from, right? We all have our different perspectives. We were all raised differently in different cultures, with different words that we assign to different phenomena, different sensed phenomena, inward or outward. And so we take these phenomena, and maybe this idea of the light within, and we put it into different frameworks and contexts, and we give it different names, right? But ultimately, different names, different teachers, different traditions are really all pointing towards the same phenomena, right? The same felt sense. And I think we get really hung up in words and teachers and symbols, and we kind of miss what all of that is pointing towards, right? What's it pointing towards? Because that's what we're really seeking to convey, to communicate, to talk about, to share, right? We can only use words to do that. So, so I was raised in a non-religious home. My dad was Catholic. He was raised Catholic in New York City. My mom was Protestant from Belfast. What has happened with religion in Northern Ireland. And I think in the beginning, with my older siblings, they tried to toe the line and get people baptized. But by the time I came along, they'd really given up. And so, Jesus Christ was just a swear in my house. And I'm sorry if that's offensive to anybody, but that's what it was. And then I went through a kind of prep school education, the sort of Western education of atheism, basically, right? God is dead. You don't have a soul. It's a whole sort of academic perspective. So certainly as a teenager, as an atheist. But then I realized that there was something going on, and I decided to take some time to learn about different religions, different spiritual traditions, and inevitably kind of got sucked into the New Age scene, right, in my early 20s. And maybe some of you can relate to that. And, in the New Age world, people don't use the word God. It's just kind of like you tiptoe around it. You say things like source, or the universe, and I've certainly done that. I think that sometimes we think that the word God is in the domain of religion. And if you don't necessarily associate yourself with any religion, it's the way you were raised or just where you're at, then we don't use the word God, right? But the problem that I have with this is, as a sound healer, as somebody who pays really close attention to sound and how words make me feel, it's much more satisfying to say the word God instead of source or the universe. You see how like God puts me in my body, but when I'm like source, it's like kind of outside of me. Universe, it's just up in my head, right? God resonates. And I like that. I like that resonance of that sound. So what is God, right? What am I talking about when I use the word God? Well, I've really come to see that like everything is God, right? My tuning forks are God. My laptop is God. I'm God. You're God. This hockey puck is God because it's all spun from the fabric of reality. Basically, everything is ether, right? If you follow me and you've listened to my teachings about the ether, you know that that's the sort of fabric of life itself. And ether, through the action of torsion, spins itself, right? If you've ever seen, there's a really great meme, it's a circle, and it says that everything, and it's got a circle, is nothing with a twist, and then it turns into a figure eight, right? So it's this torsion, spiraling action, that really the word, right? This motion that creates this spin, this torsion, spiral that separates the one into the two, the charges of positive and negative. And that happens in the plasma. So the ether spins itself into the plasma, the positive and negative charges. And then plasma precipitates down into gases, liquids, solids. But ultimately, it's really all just spun light, right? This is the whole idea of prana, the motion. In the beginning was the word, and the word is that motion through the ether that creates life itself. So everything ultimately is the ether, is the uncreated, right? So God becomes the explicate reality of all that is created, but also the implicate reality, that which has not given rise. So the ether holds everything that ever was or will ever be is present in this intelligence. And so life, right? Life is all one thing. And so to me, God is life, God is love, and it all unfolds in this perfect phi geometry. So there's a harmony in that. And our hearts, when we are in a coherent state, and the Heart Math Institute has done a lot of work with this, the signal that our heart generates is a phi spiral. It is coherent, right? So what are the coherent emotions? First and foremost, I think gratitude is a very coherent emotion. And when we're in a state of gratitude, it brings us into that state of harmony where we are in sync with the unfolding of life itself. Love, obviously, appreciation. And when we're in that state, we enter into that flow, that beautiful flow of life, right? So there has to be a force in nature that guides us into this flow, that connects us to us, right? Because all of life is moving, the cosmos and the stars and the rivers and the oceans, like everything is moving. And nature stays healthy, right? Nature is just this whole movement. So there's got to be a force in nature that guides nature into that flow, right? A nudge. And I think this appears in us as humans as our conscience, that which invites us, nudges us, guides us to do the right thing, right? And we all know that voice is like, says, don't do that. And you're like, but we can exercise our free won't, right? Never mind free will. that you're afraid won't is when, for whatever reason, you're feeling powerless or unable or in some way to follow that nudge. Right? I mean, you always see after it's like, oh, should have done that. So I think part of really being in health and being in the flow of life and being in harmonic resonance with God, with creation, is being attuned to that force which wants to guide us towards health, towards well-being, towards coherent, regulated expression. And also to whatever our particular purpose or mission is, right? A few years ago, I wrote a blog post saying that biofield tuning is not a spiritual practice, and I am not a spiritual teacher. And the reason why I was so adamant about that was because we put labels on things, right? We kind of pigeonhole stuff. We're like, oh, this is spiritual and this is physical. Really, but in my worldview, it's all blended. It's all one. I mean, being a human being is a spiritual experience, if you will. But it's also a physical experience. And so I think I'm very wanting to not use labels or, this is spiritual or not spiritual or, because it's all light. It's all light. I'm light, you're light, it's all one light, right? And part of being human is just being part of that light. And I think that I've kind of kept under wraps to some degree or another, just what a deep and powerful and formative relationship that I have with God. Everything that I've done, everything that I've created in the world, that has come to me as guidance. And, there's that saying, many are called, but few are chosen. And I was thinking about that the other day, and I was like, that's not really true. I think all are called. Right? I think all are called. I just think a lot of people don't necessarily believe that they're worthy of whatever they're called to. I think that that's a really big obstacle for people, is feeling worthy of whatever the greatness is that God is calling to you, in you. And so if all are called, then not everyone chooses, for whatever reason, to answer that call. And yet I think that it's like the most important thing in life is to hear and to heed and to live what our soul as an expression of God, right? Where God, a spark of God is in us, the light that's in us. And I also want to talk about that light within, because when I was 17 or 18, I decided to smoke as much pot as I possibly could to see what would happen, right? And ever the scientist and experimenter. And so I went out in the woods on this beautiful sunny day, and I smoked like 2 joints all to myself, like laid down in the snow. I was wearing a snowsuit. And I had such a powerful experience of inner illumination. My whole interior was just lit up. Now, at that point, the only framework that I could attach that experience of inner illumination to was Jesus Christ. I was like, what, am I Christ? Right? That I can see why people think that they're Jesus Christ. If you have this experience of inner illumination, you're like, oh my God, I am the light of the world, right? And many years later, I discovered plasma, the fourth state of matter, and the fact that our bodies have an electrical system, and that we are a bioplasma, and that the same light that lights the sun, that lights lightning bulbs and lightnings, is this light, our electrical system. Do you run on electric juice by breathing in the electric air around you for the most part? So you have a light body, and it's both biological and spiritual, if you will, because it is eternal. It is undying. That's you, that inner light. When you die, your light goes out. That light can't be destroyed. That light is part of the one light. And so I think it's so important that this, to me, is this marrying of science and spirituality. There is no, those are just words, right, guys? Those are just words. Science is a method for understanding the natural world. And religion is too more of our inner reality. We have this inner light, and we sense this presence or this wisdom or this guidance in that light, right? And I want to tell you that every single person I know who's out there doing amazing, good, helpful, useful work in the world is guided by God, and they will tell you that. They'll tell you that. And they're not necessarily religious or, but they're answering their call and they're doing the work. And I'll tell you what, sometimes it's terrifying. I've been asked to do things. And I'm like, what? I don't want to do that. No, I'm exercising my free will. But then I always realize that, even if it's scary or terrifying or not what I want or what I think I want, that it is what I need. Right? And life definitely gives us what we need in order to grow and realize the truth of who we are. So the tuning that I want to do today is a tuning to bring us closer to God, to bring us closer to that nudge, to that guidance. Make it easier for you to hear that call so that you can answer it. Because that's where life is the most fulfilling. That's where you can rest. If you follow your conscience every day, you can sleep well at night, right? The more you fill up your interior space with light and with coherence and with God, then you are the light of the world. You bring that with you wherever you go. God moves you. Yesterday here in Jamaica, I'm like an ATM. We handed out so much gifts yesterday here. People, because that's what we were asked to do, to be that conduit of God. You're like, Eileen, you've got plenty. These people don't have anything. You're going to give this to them. I'm like, okay, I will. Right? I will. And I just say yes. All right. So, live subtitles next time, please. Yes, I'll try to figure out how to set that up. All right, everybody. So let's enter into tuning space. And I'm going to use a variety of forks. And the first one I'm going to use is my 144 hertz fork. And this fork is, it's disruptive, right? It's sort of like wants to break down whatever kind of obstacles are in the way of you tuning in to God's communication to you, God's word, God's love, right? God's forgiveness. It's God forgives us, we're the ones that have to forgive ourselves. We are forgiven. We are seen as light. Okay, so in order to get ready for tuning, what you want to do is close your eyes and just take a scan right now of your body and just notice how you feel. How are you feeling in this moment? Do you have any pain? Do you have any discomfort? Are you sad? Maybe you're by yourself, or you've got estranged loved ones, or whatever. Wherever you're at is okay. Right? Life's all about contrast. So it's important that we have these dark nights, the times when we really go through the grinder. I've certainly been through it myself. Are you good? Are you feeling light and already filled with spirit? Just see how you feel. And then I just want you to take a breath down into the belly. It might take a few breaths to get all the way down into the belly. And then exhale some sound and use your intention to ground yourself. Send your energy down on the ground. The more embodied we become, the more filled with light we become. Our bodies become lighter, but we become more grounded at the same time. And that almost makes me feel like I feel almost, I was reflecting on this yesterday, that I feel like there's almost like a feminine aspect and a masculine aspect of God, in that I definitely perceive the light as more masculine and more chatty, more inclined to speak words to me. But there's a feminine aspect as well, and a sort of earth feeling aspect that doesn't really communicate so much in words, but in feelings that arise. Right? So we got Mother God and Father God, and the sort of all one God, sort of trinity of that. And so that's that being grounded, right? Being light and filled with God, but also being connected to the earth, filled with Mother Earth, nourished by the masculine and feminine aspects of the one that's split into the two. Okay. So feeling grounded, feeling present in your body, I'm just going to introduce some tones. We're just going to listen. It's really all we do is just kind of listen and see what we notice and see where the sound brings us. I see someone else is going to use their 144 as well. Yeah, great. We're all tuning each other. And the sound will fade out, like, the noise canceling will kind of take it out, but it's still going even if you don't hear it, and I want you to tune into that energetically. Don't fuss because the sound has been canceled, just feel the energy. Now, when I start tuning, I start moving. Energy starts moving through me, right? And my ankles start to want to rotate, and my body wants to start to move. And it's a little embarrassing to me, but I can't help it. But you might want to feel that too. If you don't feel like moving, that's fine. But if you do, then do. Okay, that's how we break patterns. Okay, so there's a really interesting tone coming through here that I want to share, and that is fear and fear of not being good enough for whatever your calling is. Guys, that's so normal. Okay, it's just so normal to have that fear, and so much of it's been put into us. We've been had so much guilt and shame and stuff heaped on us to feel like an illuminated being, fully worthy of fully embodying the light and love of God. Like there's some hurdles to get over to get there, right? And fear is a big one of them. But I just want to tell you, as somebody who's seen into thousands of people's souls, I'm an authority on this. I will tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're absolutely, absolutely worthy. And we need you on the team to get it, let's hurry up and get over that thought. This is also the sound of like other people in our environment with difficult energy that it throws us off balance, right? Jerks, idiots, like that, and bad characters. There's a lot of that energy kind of coming in. I remember my son saying to me once that I was harshing his zen as a parent. And so, yeah, it's just characters harshing your zen and making it difficult to connect and to um, embody your potential. And this is also, part of the whole game, really, is that, we sort of need the adversity, the difficult characters, the dark nights of the soul, the contrast, right? In order to, and really, a lot of these things that come into our life that seem bad, in hindsight, we often find that they were good, right? We don't necessarily want to judge anything as bad or good. It really all does seem like, to me, lessons laid with absolute love for us, no matter how difficult they are. We're now breathing, right? That's why I try to breathe at the beginning. Sometimes when you're listening really closely, you're not breathing. But the whole point of tuning is to get you to breathe, to relax, to release the tension of resisting because you're not good enough, and to breathe in, to be inspired with the Holy Spirit, with the life force, right? And really breathing that in. So big breath of like, yes, yes, I'll breathe that in. Oh goodness, I can feel those of you who are also tuning. That's kind of an interesting feeling that it's more than just me. I think that's super cool. A lot more energy. I feel it like coming in from different points. This is also like illusions. This is like a veil of illusions and stories and programs and lies that we've been told that just get in the way of us having a direct experience of God, right? I think that there's been a lot of idolatry and a lot of like this whole idea that we need some kind of intermediary between us and God, whether it's a priest or some kind of other figure, right? That we can't have direct connection, or that we need to have guides or this or that. And personally, I've always felt like I just have direct connection. Like, why do I need an intermediary? This idea that we need an intermediary is kind of programmed into us, like some other kind of authority. And it really feeds into the like, I'm not good enough, therefore I need intercession somehow, right? So we definitely, yeah, I'm going to stay with this whole veil of illusion and story thing for a minute. Yeah, there's almost like this feeling of things sort of breaking down. This is like the fear of the judgment of God, like judgment. I think that that's really a story. I don't perceive God as judgmental at all, you know, at all. Just really loving, you know, like somebody you just want to hang out with because they just offer such a good perspective on things, not eternal judgment and condemnation. Right? This is sort of that part of that programming, and the whole judgment thing really gets in our way. Yeah. Saturnian figure of judgment calling you out for your sins. That's a construct. We judge ourselves the most harshly. Yeah, just let that go. Good. This kind of takes off a whole mantle of heaviness. Good. Yeah, and I just felt a whole sort of uptick in the light in the group here. Okay, I'm going to do one more with the 144, and then I'm going to switch. Just really let the sound find its way into any areas that feel dark or constricted or heavy or don't have God in them. Good. So one of the things that I talk about is this whole idea of raising your voltage as opposed to raising your vibration. I think the idea of raising your vibration is sort of technically incorrect. We want to tune our vibration. We want to get in tune. We want to find our vibrational sweet spot, right? We're in the center of our being and move from there. But we want to raise our voltage. We want to raise the amount of electric current in us, right? Increase our light. What does that mean? And when we translate that, it equals more God in you. That's what it is. That's just letting it in. And everyone that I've ever worked on, they had some kind of issue somewhere, whether physical, some kind of issue. And I poke around in there and they're like, but the story was, I'm not worthy of letting in the light of God here because I'm a guilty sinner. Right? So in these next ones, I'm going to use the 174. We're just going to invite that light in. Sort of shook out places where we were holding stuff. And now we're just going to invite light. So this is a 174. If anyone wanted to switch to that and just let this ring out. I'll tell you that God and truth and light and love all have a ring to it. There's a ring, there's a resonance, right? And so that's part of like being radiantly healthy, is feeling that ring in all of your cells. You're resonating with the song of creation itself, right? So this is where we're going to invite your cells to ring with the song of creation. And let the voltage of every single little water molecule and individuation within you light up. Yeah. Going with a little bit of like drone autopilot, stuck in a program kind of feeling, right? This ringing, living light is buoyant and playful and illuminated, spontaneous and joyful, and right, all of that. And this just resonated with this like thing that was on top of it. Well, the world puts us in us. The world harshes our zen pretty seriously. There we go. Yeah, just feel that spirit wanting to come alive in you. And really breathe in, right? Every oxygen molecule has free electrons. If you believe in electrons, some people don't, but it carries electricity, carries light. That's why oxygenated blood is lighter and brighter than blood that's depleted of oxygen, because it's got light in it, right? Light from oxygen, light from our air. And it's through the breath that the more light you have in your blood, the more radiantly healthy you are. And that comes from free breathing, right? So this is going into that which is heavy on the chest, stuck in the diaphragm, kind of locking down the breath. So let's just stay with the breath. Don't try to force it. There we go. Let that just come into the ribs, expand the ribs, soften and release the diaphragm. Let the lungs really expand. So just breathe in that light. Number one way to raise your voltage is to breathe in God as much as you can. Breathe out gratitude. Good. Okay. So now I'm going to come in with the 528. So if anybody's got a 528, you can switch to that. And, we'll just see where this one takes us. A little sort of brightening, polishing. This will be my last work. Okay, so this feels like it's tuning us into that sweet frequency of that nudge of life. Go do the right thing. Go be the great being that you are. Go take really good care of yourself. Do this thing to help this person. Give a $20 bill to a homeless person, whatever it is. Right? Let life. That's what my friend Marcy Shimoff calls the miracle zone. When you're really in this place, miracles happen to you, in the world around you. Right? This is again a feeling like I'm not worthy. This one's really persistent. Like, poor me, I can't be party. I've been there. Know it. It's okay. That's where you're at. And even if there's just a tiny bit of you that's there, just honor that, hear that, be with that. And then encourage that part of you to kind of question that story and be willing to open up to more energy, more flow, more God, more light, more breath, more love. Okay, so this is reflecting like a belief in smallness and individuation, right? So what I want us to do right now in a group, there's 125 of us. Let's just really connect and feel. I kind of like the idea of circling up and sending energy from the heart kind of into, imagine that there's a center of a wheel, right? And we all send out sort of spokes of light. And so let's just feel together the power of all of us, right? And if you're coming and you're watching this later, it still works. It doesn't matter that you weren't here live. That's just the way the ether works. You can still tap in and feel this energy. So if you've got your 528s, you can, and then just really use your imagination, right? Let's just really feel that connection, feel that light connecting, and feel the amplification of it. And then it all feeds back, right? That whole amplified signal feeds back into our own hearts. It takes that small, individuated, diminished signal and really brightens it and lights it up and empowers it with the connectivity of the all. Yeah, good job. It's giving me chills. Woohoo! Well, you guys are a powerful group, I'd say. Thank you so much for being here with me on Christmas morning. I'm really grateful that we're here together doing this because I really feel this, and I hope you do too. And I want you to like kind of tune into your inner warrior, right? So if there's any part of you that's feeling like, really like, courage and straighten the spine, take a powerful stance, right? Really feel that energy feeding in and feeding back. Yeah, and going, and now it's sort of like going around the circle too. So we're creating a spiral, right, of this amplified energy. And then let's just, let's send it out in the world. We're gathered here to bring more light into ourselves. And together we bring more light into the world, right? It's a very dark world with a lot of lies and illusions and stories and suffering. And the more we fill ourselves up with light, the more we bring light into the darkness. And that's, the second coming of Christ, this Christed light. And it's been said many times, it's not one person, but it's the return of the awareness of the light within, the embodiment and the connection to, in all of us. In all of us, right? And if you want to add a little sound, I feel some of you feeling like a tone might be coming up. You want to put a ah or an om or an ooh or into let your voice also send a prayer. Feel free to do that. If it's arising in you. I'm sending this very consciously to all our loved ones. And maybe even to, world leaders or puppet string masters or whoever is out there with black hearts doing bad things. Let's just send the God spark to awaken in those hearts. They can be redeemed themselves. Yeah, I can feel how that's a little hard for some of you to feel love for bad characters, but that's part of the story too, right? Anything that is loveless needs love. Yeah, we can't hate on the haters because that doesn't work. I'm really finding that forgiveness and love for those. Yeah, everybody, let's take a big breath around that, right? And really feel the ground. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Let's just take a moment to gather more energy in our own hearts. Feel this connection. Good. Yeah. Do you feel how there's just a lot more light, right, in you, in the space around you? So my prayer for you is that you feel God, you hear God, you know God, and that you say yes to God. That you remember that you're worthy and be okay if whatever God is asking you is scary. And remember that nudge in nature, right? It wants to keep us healthy. It wants us to realize our gifts, to accept that we all have gifts and that we're all amazing and that we honor God by saying yes to the gifts that we've been given and sharing those gifts in the world. And some of our gifts are really mighty and amazing, and it can be hard to feel worthy of that, right? And I really just want to underscore this again, right? Answer the call. You are worthy. And the outcome when you do it, it is radiant health. And it is radical acceptance and compassion and love for fellow humans. And I know that's an idealized state, but I'm an unapologetic idealist because someone has to be. All right. So the next sermon is actually on New Year's Day. And I'll probably do it live. And it's going to be about purpose, about connecting to purpose. I've figured out this very cool hack to figure out your purpose very easily. And so I'm excited to share that with you. And we'll talk about purpose and living purpose, and we'll do a tuning to help get all the stuff out of the way that is getting in the way of you really knowing and living your purpose. So I will absolutely look forward to being with you all again next Sunday. And I'm going to do this for a little while, probably till I get sick of it. You know, it's not normal for me to be regular and predictable. So I don't know how long I'll be able to keep it up, but I definitely will for a while anyway. So tune in with me next Sunday. I think instead of setting one up, I might just go live because I don't want to encounter technical difficulties. But so 10 a.m. Eastern next Sunday. Thank you all for being with me, and Merry Christmas. Much love.